and family physicians. More at baptisthealthplace.com.
This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. Ahead in the next 5 minutes, live local news for the First Coast from the WJCT News team.
A path-breaking candidate declares in the race for Jacksonville Sheriff. I'm Melissa Ross, and just ahead this hour on First Coast Connect, JSO Assistant Chief Lakeisha Burton is the first candidate to say she'll run for sheriff in 2023. We'll speak with her this morning about her campaign. That's just ahead, then later.
We are raising $150,000 over the next 150 days.
How you can help Daniel Kids, Florida's oldest child welfare agency. Plus a conversation with Jacksonville native and author Donnie Walton about her hit debut novel, The Final Revival of Opal and Nev. That and more is just ahead. After the day's news.
Live from NPR News, I'm Corva Coleman. Peaceful protests and violence occurred in a suburb of Minneapolis on Sunday and overnight into this morning after the fatal police shooting of a young black man during a traffic stop. The family of 20-year-old Dante Wright says they don't know why he was pulled over or why he was killed on Sunday. Commissioner John Harrington is with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. He says the police shooting in the suburb of Brooklyn Center is under investigation.
Brooklyn Center does have body cams. We expect that we will use the body cams. We will take statements. Our BCA forensics team did go out and do a crime scene survey and take care of evidence that way.
There are reports some businesses in Brooklyn Center were badly damaged. Members of Minnesota's National Guard have been deployed to Brooklyn Center. Virginia's governor is calling for an investigation into the police pepper spraying of a U.S. Army officer last December. Officers stopped Second Lieutenant Caron Nazario and forced him out of his car. His cell phone video shows him being pepper sprayed and knocked to the ground. One of the police officers has been fired. Members of Congress are returning this week from a 2-week recess. NPR's Windsor Johnston reports a top priority is President Biden's $2 trillion infrastructure proposal.
President Biden continues to push his infrastructure plan as a once-in-a-generation investment to revive the nation's economy. The measure includes billions of dollars to upgrade roads, bridges, waterways, and rail lines. It also provides funding to improve broadband service and investments in clean energy. The plan has not gained a lot of traction from congressional Republicans who argue that it strays from core transportation priorities. They've also slammed Biden's proposal to increase the corporate tax rate to 28% to pay for the bill. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has called the plan a Trojan horse for liberal policies. Windsor Johnston, NPR News, Washington.
China's top disease control official says Chinese COVID-19 vaccines may not work well enough. NPR's Emily Fang reports he recommends changing China's immunization methods.
Gao Fu told a conference in the city of Chengdu over the weekend that the current 4 Chinese vaccines with domestic approval, quote, don't have very high rates of protection. He recommended using different types of vaccines or changing the number of doses given to people. All of China's vaccines so far are 2-shot inoculations. China has not provided detailed clinical data from its various human trials of vaccines, and efficacy rates can vary wildly. For example, one of the main vaccines made by Sinovac is either 50% or 83% effective depending on the trial. China has exported millions of doses around the world and has strongly pushed back against any suggestion their vaccines are faulty. Emily Fang, NPR News, Beijing.
This is NPR News.
It's 9:04. This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. I'm Michelle Corum. The Florida legislature is now past the halfway point of its 60-day session. As WJCT News' Billboard's Field reports, tomorrow the State House will be considering a controversial bill.
The Florida House is scheduled to take up a bill during a floor session that would ban transgender female athletes from taking part in girls' or women's high school and college sports. The proposal would limit participation in school sports to a person's biological sex, which is a disputed term that refers to the sex assigned to someone at birth. Bill sponsor, Republican Representative Kaylee Tuck of Lake Placid, says the bill is needed because inherent biological differences give males an edge in sports. Democratic Representative Kristen Arrington of Kissimmee counters, saying the bill discriminates and could push sports organizations and corporations to take their business elsewhere. More than 25 Republican-controlled states have introduced or passed similar measures. Bill Bortsfield, WJCT News, 89.9.
And we have a few clouds right now. It's in the mid-60s around Jacksonville. Had a good soaking rain yesterday. It should gradually become mostly sunny for the afternoon with temperatures in the low 80s, upper 50s tonight, a high tomorrow again in the low 80s. Looking ahead to Wednesday, a little bit warmer, sunshine and upper 80s. This is WJCT.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, offering its Home Quote Explorer so shoppers can evaluate options in one place when buying home insurance. Custom quotes and rates are available online. Learn more at progressive.com.
A new candidate enters the race to lead the city's police force. Good Monday morning. We're live from Studio 5. I'm Melissa Ross, and this is First Coast Connect. Thanks for listening. Hope you had a nice weekend. Just ahead, we kick off the week as we welcome JSO Assistant Chief Lakeisha Burton to learn more about her path-breaking run for sheriff. Give us a call now as we talk policing, criminal justice, public safety here on the show. 549-2937 to join us. Then later, restaurants have a whole new problem as they recover from the pandemic. We'll tell you about it. Plus a conversation with Jacksonville-raised author Donnie Walton about her smash new debut novel, The Final Revival of Opal and Nev. First, though, the latest numbers on the pandemic. Sunday, the state reported that coronavirus cases increased by about 5,500. Once again, deaths ticked up again. The death toll in the state now stands at 34,021. Vaccinations are rising too. Anyone can go get their vaccine anywhere in the area. There are so many sites all over the place. We say it every day on this program. We'll say it again this morning. Go get your vaccine. The sooner we can all get vaccinated, the sooner we can be past this pandemic. Well, the city's local elections are still a couple of years out, but there's already a candidate in the race to succeed term-limited Jacksonville Sheriff Mike Williams. Assistant Chief Lakeisha Burton, who has also served as director of the city's Police Athletic League, is running for sheriff. Now, she'd be the first female sheriff, if elected, and only the department's second African-American sheriff since Reconstruction. Burton has overcome many challenges in her life and has a compelling personal story. And she enters this race just as issues of public safety and criminal justice are more potent locally and nationally than ever before. It's a pleasure to welcome Lakeisha Burton to the show. Good morning, Lakeisha. Good to talk to you.
Good morning, Melissa. Thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you so much for being with us, and give us a call as we talk about Assistant Chief Lakeisha Burton's race for sheriff. The elections are still 2 years out, but candidates are already starting their campaigns. What would you like to see the next sheriff accomplish for Duval County? Call us up, 549-2937. Emails to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Tweets to @MelissaInJax, and our Facebook page is open. So as I mentioned, you're an assistant chief, former director of Jax Powell, the Police Athletic League. What prompted you to go for the top job and enter the race?
Well, that's the number one question that I've been asked for the past 7 days. And let me tell you why I'm getting in this race. It's because I love Jacksonville. This is my home. I've raised my children here. They've attended public schools. And personally, Melissa, I've always believed that safe communities is the very foundation of where hopes and dreams and futures are built. And that's why I've been boots on the ground in our community for 22 years. But last year was a turning point for me. It was a confirmation. On that day, we had our very first protest downtown. I was on the front lines with the troops that day, and I remember very vividly the paradigm shift that took place within me when I looked into the eyes of a young Black woman. I remember sharing her pain and her looking at me as though I was the enemy. And that was really the first time that I realized that I was both Black and blue, and I felt that I had to choose. And I can tell you, I was angry, I was hurt, and I was confused. And I made up in my mind then that I did not have to choose between being a police officer and being a Black citizen. But also, it was very evident how very deeply divided we are in our community, and it's unacceptable. And that's when I decided that I would be a part of the solution for change on a greater level. And what better way to do that than to run for sheriff? But just let me say this, because I just want to be honest this morning. I believe that we are going into a very critical space in 2023 as it relates to police and community relations. And I believe that it's critical that we have a leader who understands all people, someone who is willing to listen, and someone who has dedicated their career to bringing people together and also having those tough conversations we desperately need. And I know that was a long explanation, but that is my why.
Sure. And as we speak, Assistant Chief Burton, there are protesters clashing with police in Minneapolis after a man named Daunte Wright was fatally shot this weekend by police up there following a traffic stop. This is happening just as the trial of the police officer Derek Chauvin is going on in the murder of George Floyd, which sparked, as you said, nationwide protests, including here in Jacksonville last summer. So even as we speak, these types of incidents are causing new protests, dividing communities. Whoever becomes the next sheriff is going to be taking over an agency that's dealt with an incredibly intractable homicide problem. We are still the murder capital of Florida and have been off and on for over 20 years. This city is racially divided. How would you lead the agency? What would you do differently to try to help Jacksonville solve these problems?
Well, that's a great question. And as you know, my campaign is in its infancy stages. I'm only 2 years away from Election Day. When the time comes, I will reveal more of my detailed plan about how to address every specific issue. What I'm focused on right now is listening, because that is one of my strengths, to listen and understand, because I know that builds trust. Trust is the issue. We have to get to the point to where we stop telling people how they feel and what they need, and we need to listen. So again, for the next year, I'll be in listening mode. And I'm listening to every segment of our community, because every voice counts.
Mm-hmm. And so you have long experience in the department. You're an assistant chief. You also ran the city's police athletic league. You have a real understanding, as you said, of different points of view in this city. You're a survivor of child sexual abuse. You were homeless at one point. You went on to get a master's degree and build an impressive background at JSO. Not only that, if you were elected sheriff, you'd be the first female sheriff of Duval County and only the second African-American sheriff in modern history after Nat Glover. Is your personal story, do you think, does that give you a perspective on these issues of criminal justice and public safety that can make a positive difference for this city?
Absolutely. First of all, I think that we all have a story, and you have an option to, lay down and wallow in pity, or you can use everything that you've experienced in life to use it for good. And that's what I've been doing for 22 years. And first of all, let me tell you, I've had a phenomenal career. I've been blessed to work for 3 sheriffs who have all given me opportunities. And I've been able to work in various aspects of this agency, like you said, with some amazing officers and support staff. And Melissa, I started as a patrol officer, like every officer does. I worked in various areas such as the detective division and recruiting. The list goes on and on. But I knew early on at an early stage that in order to affect change that I needed to promote up and rank in. So I did that early on in my career. And as you know, I was the only fourth Black female sergeant. And as a sergeant, I worked in over several divisions and units. And being the only second Black female lieutenant, I was the commanding officer over various units. And as you stated, as the executive director of the Police Athletic League, the very entity that saved my life. And then now I'm the only fourth Black female assistant chief in the over 180 years of this agency. Look, I'm currently in patrol right now doing what I've always done, building positive relationship with law enforcement in the communities. And I can tell you, Melissa, it is by the grace of God that I've worked hard to earn every accomplishment I've received.
Now, you mentioned earlier during the BLM protests that you looked into the eyes of a protester who said that you felt that she saw you as the enemy and that was a pivotal moment for you. If you become sheriff, you'll have to reach out to that constituency, people who believe that the police should be defunded. And at the same time, constituents who are strong backers of law enforcement and backing the blue, and they are upset about the Black Lives Matter protests. In fact, there's even an anti-rioting bill that's likely to be signed into law here in Florida soon that would crack down on the kinds of protests that you mentioned earlier. So how challenging a job is it going to be for the next sheriff to preside over this big, complex, diverse county with these different kinds of people who want very different things from the sheriff's department? How will you approach that challenge?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you asked that question because this is a question that everybody's talking about. I think it's a fair question, but I do want to go on record to say that I do not believe in defunding the police. I've been having these conversations with people all over the city, and what I've learned from listening, defunding the police means different things to different people. And actually what I'm hearing, Melissa, people say is that they want real reform and not defunding. For instance, we're talking about how we address persons with mental health issues from a law enforcement perspective, and that's vital. And another topic I'm hearing a lot about is finding and allocating additional funding for juvenile intervention and prevention programs, something you know that I am passionate about. I was a product of PAL. So imagine being a 16-year-old teen mom who 30 years later would be the first woman CEO of the very entity that changed the trajectory of her life. So I've been very fortunate to be on your show over the years talking about these important programs. But, race is a very complex topic with many variables and layers to it. So the short answer and the truth is race is a problem, and it has been for decades. There's no getting around it, this issue, but we have to have these difficult and, for some, very uncomfortable conversations and acknowledge it and do something about it. I've even had to share, some of my experiences, both personally and professionally. So, but
can you tell us what experiences you've had?
Well, that's a great question. Several. So personally, just raising my three Black sons. My oldest son is 31. Middle son's 18. I have an 11-year-old. And I've experienced where my son has gone to school and his teacher has called him colored boy. And he's the only African-American boy in class. Professionally, from day one, I had an older white male officer look me in my eyes and tell me, I don't even know why they allow you to wear that uniform. But listen, with my background and my experiences, one thing I've learned to do is where I see obstacles, I see it as an opportunity. And for those who know me, know that I've been openly having these very authentic, real conversations, and I'll continue to do that.
Lots of calls for Lakeisha Burton, the assistant chief at JSO, is running for sheriff. 549-2937. Give us a call. John on the South Side. Hi, John. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Melissa, and thank you so much for taking my call. And I believe it's going to get easier here. But
That's right. It's easier here. That's right, John. That's the city's slogan.
It is. And you know what? There's some excitement that I'm just hearing. And What I wanted to ask, and it's a combination of a few different little things, but, with the Smart Justice and, with the background with the Police Athletic League and then the juvenile, crime intervention and the potential to work with the Melissa Nelson, the state attorney, Charlie Cofer, the public defender, and also, too, we are in Jacksonville where we have water everywhere. And I just want to reach out. And a number of years ago, I extended an invitation to candidates that were running for the Sheriff's Department, and they all accepted. And that was just to go kayaking. And I want to reach out that same invitation to you and just share with you what our
now, John. I know you're I know you were a big advocate for the river, but let's keep the conversation on criminal justice. Can we do that?
Well, criminal justice. If we can get the youth out on the waterways, that would be an unbelievable positive.
Okay. Thanks for that. Lakeisha Burton, as the former head of Jack's Pal, you know that kids in this city need constructive after-school activities like that. So how will you approach youth intervention and prevention as sheriff?
Well, that's a great question. So first of all, I want to acknowledge all of the nonprofits in this city that is doing amazing work. Intervention, prevention for our youth has to be at the forefront of everything that we do. Listen, youth servant organizations all over this city are crime prevention tools, and the research says that, kids that are left alone between the hours of 3 and 6, that they're more likely to engage in criminal delinquency. So it's vital that we do that.
549-2937. Paige is in Arlington. Hi, Paige. Good morning. Go ahead. Hi, Paige. You're on the air. Okay, Paige. We'll put you on hold. We'll try you in a minute. Let's go to Jimmy in Avondale. Hello, Jimmy. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Melissa. Good morning, Chief Burton. I have my first question was sort of answered, so I'd like to ask you, Chief Burton. We're all very excited about your candidacy. This is really great. How can folks who are voters and residents of Jacksonville get involved in helping out?
You want to volunteer on the campaign? Okay. As you said, Chief Burton, this campaign is in its infancy, and there will be other candidates. Fundraising is always a big part of these races. So tell us about your campaign strategy.
Oh, Melissa, now I can't tell all my strategies, but
and how,
in due time. But what I want people to know is that I'm excited. What you have in me is a different candidate that sees through a different set of lenses and have a different perspective in terms of how we serve our community.
Okay. And do you have, for people that are interested in learning more like that caller, do you have a website up yet?
I do. They can follow me at Burton for Sheriff on my Facebook. We're building out my website that'll be up next week.
Okay. Let's go back to Paige. Paige in Arlington. Hi, Paige. You're on the air. Good morning.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. I have a question, Ms. Burton, and I actually would like to work on your campaign, and I think that starting now would be a great thing to get you rolling. While Grady, there is some complaints about Grady Judd in Tampa. I do like the fact that he's more policeman than politician. And however, crime rates has gone down in Polk County and has risen in Duval County. However, in Polk County, the arrest of juvenile has gone up substantially. I want to know, are you willing to spend more time policing, even if it means policing your own? I'm not a fan of defunding the police, but however, I am a fan of reorganizing the police to make sure, one, they have the tools that they need, two, that we have the professionals to deal with these various cases, social workers, mental health providers. I'm wondering if you're willing to take cues from what larger states are doing in their policing to bring it into this current century.
Okay.
And you're right, and we have to do away with racism, so it has to be something different. And I do appreciate you saying that, we need to have this conversation. And I can take my answer off the air.
Okay, Paige. Thanks for that. Okay, and she actually said, Chief Burton, let's bring policing in Jacksonville into this century. Is the way policing is being done in this city outmoded? Do we need a fundamental reshift?
So first of all, I just wanted to say, Paige, you said a whole lot, and I agree with what you said today. So follow me. I want you a part of this team as well. So she said a lot of things, but it was a lot of different things. So I got excited listening to all the things that you said, and you're right. Again, like I said, I don't believe in defunding the police, but there certainly is room for us to improve in different areas in terms of reform. So, and we need to get back to the 21st century policing, and that is my wheelhouse. That is something that I've been doing from day one. When I started in 1999, that was the fabric of our everyday workforce. So that's going to be an easy thing, and I am one that believes in building relationships, which lead to great partnerships. We'll build on strong collaboration.
What would be a specific example of how you do things differently? Because as I mentioned, Duval County has held the dubious title of murder capital for Florida for a couple of decades now. The police budget just keeps getting bigger, and, really, there's been no change in the homicide numbers and the violent crime numbers. So I think that it's fair to say that the way we've been doing things hasn't been working. It's not fair to blame the police for murders because the issues the root causes are so complex. That said, how would you as sheriff work with all of these social service agencies in a way to really get at some of the systemic issues? And can you give me a specific example?
Well, first of all, you mentioned the budget. That is something that I plan to spend a lot of time looking at to ensure that the public understands how we spend every single dollar, because I think that is where we can build confidence in getting people to understand how essential the budget is. But in terms of the murder rate, I'm glad to say right now that actually the murder rate is trending down from this time last year. And, my race is in 2 years. But right now, I'm the assistant chief. I work under Sheriff Mike Williams, and we're working hard every day collaboratively with our investigative units and everything that we can do to reduce and prevent crime.
Lots of calls for Lakeisha Burton, the assistant chief running for sheriff. The election is 2 years away, just so you guys are aware. Curtis is on the line. Hello, Curtis.
Hi, good morning, ladies. Chief, my comment is this. I'm totally against defunding. I'm more for reform. And my reform issue is the procedures that put these officers in the position to have to use deadly force is antiquated. I think it just needs to be a new way. I'm sick and tired of our tax dollars, everyone's tax dollars, defending rogue cops and cops who are unjustifiably put in a position where they have to resort to a deadly incident. I mean, we ought to be tired of paying all these dollars for defending wrongful actions. I don't think a police should ever get out of his car and approach another person's car not knowing what's in that car. I don't think a police should high-speed chase, should run after, chase down. If it's not a case of murder, there should not be no deadly incident involved when it comes down to a police interaction. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As I mentioned, Chief Burton, there are clashes between police and protesters in Minneapolis right now after a traffic stop up there ended in murder. That city is on edge, of course, because of the trial of the former police officer Derek Chauvin and the death of George Floyd. African Americans in particular are very concerned that they could come to harm if they have an encounter with police that goes awry. So what about this? How would you as sheriff lead your department in ways that would reduce these kinds of interactions?
First, I want to say that I understand and I'm very familiar with how the community feels. but also I want people to know that our job is very dangerous. And how we're going to address some of these things are really from a budgetary standpoint, investing in training, recruitment. All of those are very important, especially training to ensure that the emotional intelligence of officers. Right now in 2023, we're going to have a very young workforce. I believe more than, half of the force will have 7 years or less on. And I see that as an opportunity to make sure that they are, are well-rounded, trained officers.
Tiffany is downtown. Hi, Tiffany. Good morning. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. My name is Tiffany calling from downtown. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
My question for Chief Burton is, we know that historically the 32208 and 32209 zip codes kind of got dealt a bad hand as it relates to consolidation up until present day. There are many battles that they continue to fight in those two specific zip codes. So my question to you, Chief Burton, is how do you plan to use your position and your leadership, if you are elected as sheriff, to really change the quality of life from a police standpoint and just from a community standpoint for the citizens that live in the 32208 and 32209 zip code?
All right. Thanks, Tiffany. 32208 and 09. Chief
So,
Burton.
Tiffany, that's a great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for that question. First of all, I want to just go on record and say we have a lot of great people living in these communities in every zip code. What is it going to take is a partnership. We can't do it alone. We've been saying it a long time from a JSO perspective. We can't arrest our way out of it. It's going to take a partnership between us, the community, the business community, the nonprofit community, and all us coming together and really making a difference. And look, I've been doing this my entire career. Everything I've done, I have looked at it from an education standpoint, prevention, intervention, and enforcement. And I just believe that we can do them all simultaneously. And I've been doing that, being creative and innovative in terms of how we address. Look, there's no cookie cutter response. Every community has different neighborhoods that we have to customize our approaches. And that's what I'll do in partnership with you and our community members.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be following this race along with all of the other local races. She is Assistant Chief Lakeisha Burton, the first declared candidate for sheriff. Elections aren't till 2023. Chief Burton, thanks so much.
Thank you, Melissa, for having me.
And much more still ahead. Later, restaurants have a new problem. Yeah. Diners are coming back to dinner, but is there enough staff to serve them? We'll tell you about that. But up next.
We are raising $150,000 over the next 150 days.
How you can help the oldest child welfare agency in Florida. We'll speak with the CEO of Daniel Kids right after this. Well, they're the oldest child welfare agency in Florida, and now they're asking for the city's help. I spoke about it with Leslie Wells, CEO of Daniel Kids. Take a listen. Hi, Leslie. Good to talk to you. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Melissa.
I'm always pleased to shine a light on Daniel, the oldest child serving agency in Florida, helping children who've been through incredible traumas of various kinds. And of course, you're based right here in Jacksonville. Right now, you need the community's help for an important initiative that's happening at Daniel. Tell us about it.
Sure. We are raising $150,000 over the next 150 days so we can launch and renovate one of our cottages, about a 6,000 square foot unit, to serve children with intellectual differences that may be on the autism spectrum, that currently have to go approximately over 100 miles out of town to receive that kind of care. Over the last several years, we've had to turn away these children and adolescents because we don't have a dedicated unit that will really meet their needs and address their trauma and their day-to-day needs in a facility like this.
Now, you're calling this Daniel's Furnish Their Future initiative, but this is really about more than furniture. I didn't realize this, but if you can get this done, you're helping kids for whom your cottage on your campus is the only place within 100 miles where this kind of therapy is available for these kinds of children. So you're really an oasis for children.
Yes. So as you can imagine, for children having to go, 100 miles away from their foster homes, away from their parents or guardians, and trying to help these children heal and also work with their families so when these children return back to their homes that they've learned the skills and to be safe and not harming themselves or acting out aggressively or physically. We really need the partnership with the parent and the community and the foster parents. And traveling 100 miles or to have, weekly and daily visits, that's really just not feasible and or, the kind of environment that these children need to thrive and heal in.
Right. And with 135 years or so in doing this kind of work in Florida, you've got a really deep breadth of experience in this. Can I ask you, in the pandemic, how much more challenging has it become to help these kids? Because even with my own children and their peer group in high school, I've noticed a huge uptick in anxiety and kids at school having trouble, mental health issues. So this time, I would think in particular, it's really important to support your work.
Across all Daniel programs, Melissa, it is, the impact has been, just horrific and incredible. I mean, from children, the amount of children coming into the foster care system who have lived in just, really difficult situations and the trauma that these children have faced to, as you mentioned, children in just in school settings that haven't had interaction with their peers and in a traditional classroom setting. It's really been, very difficult on children and adolescents in our community, no doubt. And the children that reside on our campus, we have about 35 children that reside with us 24 hours a day. And these children, have been waiting on placement and, their behaviors and their trauma have really, just intensified during this past year.
So with all of that said, how can people support Daniel Kids right now and help you reach your goal?
Sure. So we are in the final stages. We are hoping to raise $150,000 to furnish this new unit, this renovated unit. So we are looking for dollars to assist with beds, dressers. We have 18 beds that we're trying to furnish. We have dining room furniture, kitchen, adaptive equipment, you name it, to help get this unit up and going in the next. We hope to break ground in July and August and really start the renovation so we can accept referrals, by the end of this year for this new unit for these population.
All right. So check it out online at danielkids.org/future. Daniel, Florida's oldest child-serving agency. And thank you, Leslie Wells. She's the CEO of Daniel. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and thank you for having us and hearing about our mission and cause.
Well, when it comes to restaurant owners, there's good news and bad news right now. The good news is that diners are coming back. The bad news, restaurant owners are having trouble finding enough workers to staff their eateries. Chef Richard Robinson of Pink Salt has some thoughts on this. His establishment is in San Marco, and he's on the line. Chef Richard, good morning.
Good morning, Melissa. How are you this morning?
I'm great, thanks. So before we get into the issue with staffing, tell us, let's take a moment to plug your restaurant. Tell us about Pink Salt.
So Pink Salt Restaurant is located in San Marco, 1430 San Marco Boulevard, and we are a Caribbean fusion restaurant. Prior to San Marco, we were in the Bay Meadows area. And San Marco has done us right. I mean, it's a very good location. People traffic, and just the area in general is just very good. So, and we'll get further into how busy we are and how much help we need at the moment.
So it's a good problem to have. You're getting busy again, but you are having trouble. In fact, the entire restaurant industry is having trouble finding qualified workers, people to wait tables and do other jobs at your place. Why do you think that is?
I think part of the problem is, when you speak to a lot of people these days and they're telling you that, hey, you know what, I can get paid sitting at home. Why should I go back to work? So the labor pool it's like 0 to none. And I don't think it's not only just the restaurant industry that it's affecting, but, the purveyors that we're getting our food from, it's affecting also. One of the thing that we joke about is there's a shortage of chicken wings, and people are like, chicken wings? Yes, there's a shortage of chicken wings. Like, you just can't get it because for COVID, they have limited the amount of people that can work in those facilities. So, and then B, some of these people are collecting unemployment, so they're not back in the workforce. So it's affecting us from many different aspects, and not just, hey, you can't find the workers to work, but B, you can't find the produce nor the products that you do need.
Interesting. So let's talk about the worker issue first. I'm interested to hear more about this because, of course, in Florida, lots of people have had trouble even accessing unemployment benefits at all. And they're pretty small checks, and they run out pretty quickly. But you think that's playing a role, at least somewhat of a role, in the staffing issue?
I think it is playing a role, and we are also in a time where people are getting their stimulus check and they're getting their tax return. So, not that, I don't know how much people get back in tax return, but I don't think I'll be able to survive on stimulus check and tax return. But, I think maybe sometimes people get complacent. Hey, I'm getting this money, so hey, if it's not needed, why do I need to go back to work? And it's just my perspective of, some of what I've seen and what I've heard from people. I've had employees that I call back when we reopen the restaurant. Hey, want to come back? We have benefits. Hey, we have 401k benefits. We're doing a starting bonus of $250, and people are like, absolutely not. We just we're comfortable staying home. I'm like, wow, like, hey, this is like, it almost feel like you're being pranked.
And other restaurant workers are having the same trouble. Okay, so here's an email from a listener. He believes the extension of the $300 a week unemployment benefit is the main reason. At the same time, you are hiring sometimes from the hospitality industry instead. Is that right?
Correct. But now you have no choice where you hire from. It's just you want to put a body there to make sure that you're covered. For example, for us, I mean, we in my kitchen, because we work, we're open for brunch and lunch, then we open back for dinner. Sometimes I do a double, 3 days or 2 days out of the week, because our busier days, which are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, we just don't have the manpower to not have the people cover it. So what do? Do you leave your staff short staff, or do you jump in and cover? But it's just we're short probably about 4 or 5 cooks at the moment.
Wow. So so you and other restaurant owners, you're trying to decide because the demand is there. The public wants to come back out to eat. So do you go full service or do you do limited service? These are the kinds of decisions I guess you're having to make now. Is that right?
It is. These are major decisions that we have to make. And, I tell people on Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays, we opted not to do takeout orders, and people get upset, but we do explain to them that, hey, we understand that you want to spend your money with us. It's not like we don't want your money, but we just don't have the capacity to, do takeout order plus serve the guests in-house and provide the best quality of experience with them, because takeout orders, they're a little bit different than, just doing a regular, hey, you dine in the restaurant, you sit, you have a cocktail or something of that nature. So we want to make sure we're providing the best experience for the guests that are dining in, so we opted not to do to go. But I mean, not that we don't want the money, but it's just we don't have the manpower to do it.
Let's go to Catherine in Jacksonville. Catherine's on the line. Hi, Catherine. Good morning. Go ahead, Catherine. Catherine, are you there?
No, but this is Jeff. I'm happy to take your call.
Oh, okay. It says Catherine Dobson. Is that? I guess that's maybe your wife. But go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead, Jeff. You're on the air. Okay. Well, we lost that call. So, Chef Robinson, it's really interesting to talk to a local chef about this. We try to drop in on culinary folks pretty often here on the show. It's been such a tough year, and the fact that you're even still open at all is an achievement because so many restaurants closed and didn't make it. So many restaurants will never open again. So as you kind of look ahead to the end of this pandemic and beyond, how do you see the restaurant industry changing and evolving after what we've all been through? What do you foresee for your industry?
I think for the industry, we as restaurateurs have learned a lot. I mean, not only as restaurateur, but as diners, and myself as a diner, I have a new respect for everyone that work in the restaurant industry, because people don't understand that the struggle that restaurant goes through, and even during the pandemic where people were still working, people are still eating food. It's a demanding industry, but we're still getting the reviews of, hey, my food takes a long time, like this, and people are not very compassionate to restaurant workers sometimes. So, our industry have changed a lot. Now that we are struggling with workers, so you do find some employees that, I don't care. They have the I don't care attitude. But I think once things get back to some type of normalcy, people are going to start looking and going back to those qualified candidates. So the people that really, hey, I would love to get in the restaurant industry if you have no experience. Maybe people like myself won't be hiring them, because now you're hiring people, they stay for 3 days, 2 days, and they're like, hey, this is not for me. So you're wasting your time training them and paying them, and they last 2 days or a week. So it kind of gives you that sense of, okay, do I hire someone with no experience and give them a chance, or do I just go for the experienced person?
Do you think that the pandemic has reminded everybody of the importance of locally owned restaurants?
I think it have. We have gotten so many support emails, messages that, hey, we're happy you're in the community. We're happy your restaurant is doing good despite the pandemic. I mean, like you stated before, a lot of restaurants have closed. A lot of people, the average restaurant person doesn't plan for a pandemic. The average restaurant person plans for their day-to-day operation and paying their bills and paying their employees. And most restaurateur doesn't have thousands of dollars stacked in their bank accounts and say, oh, yeah, tomorrow we're going to have a pandemic, so we'll stay open for 6 months and
You're
can
right.
still
Yeah.
pay the bills.
Yeah, yeah. But maybe that will change now, having been through this. Maybe the business
I
model will
think it
change.
will.
Yeah.
I do think it will. Yeah, that it will. That I mean, most of us have learned, and I myself have learned that. Wow, thank God I was able to stay open, but I know friends that they weren't able to stay open. Their business just went under.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you for staying open, and check out Pink Salt in San Marco. Chef Richard Robinson of the Caribbean-style eatery Pink Salt. Thanks, Chef Richard.
Thank you, Melissa. You have a great day.
You too. And still to come, author Donnie Walton on her Jacksonville roots and her hit debut novel, Winning Raves, the final revival of Opal and Nev. That's next.
Lee & Kate's Glass, family owned and operated for 95 years. Lee & Kate's Glass is your source for upgrading your home's glass, from shower doors and mirrors to windows and tabletops. Learn more at leeandkatesglass.com. Announcing Vickers Landing at Oak Bridge, bridging retirees with an all-new Ponte Vedra Beach community, featuring new homes, a resort lifestyle, and a life plan for every stage of aging. Information at vickerslanding.com.
I'm Peter O'Dowd. In writing his Oscar-nominated score for Da 5 Bloods, composer Terence Blanchard was inspired by the work of stars Delroy Lindo and Chadwick Boseman.
I forgot I was watching a film. I was just in the moment. And I kept saying to myself, writing the music for that, don't blow that vibe. Don't blow the rhythm of that.
That's next time on Here and Now.
Today at 2 on WJCT News 89.9.
On the next Fresh Air, writer, director, and actor Emerald Fennell. She wrote and directed the feminist revenge film Promising Young Woman. It's nominated for 5 Academy Awards this year, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Original Screenplay. Fennell also played Patsy in the series Call the Midwife and Camilla Parker Bowles in the Netflix series The Crown. Join us.
Today at noon on WJCT News 89.9.
America is reaching the point where vaccine supply could outstrip vaccine demand. And there's one group that's particularly resistant to getting the shot: white evangelicals. Roughly 45% of them aren't interested in a vaccine, which is a problem since 1 in 4 Americans identify as evangelical. Why do some believers lack faith in a vaccine? That's next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, author Donnie Walton grew up here in Jacksonville, and she has scored a smash with her well-reviewed debut novel, The Final Revival of Opal and Nev. I spoke with Walton about her upbringing here and what inspired this story. Take a listen. Donnie Walton, a pleasure. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's so great to be here.
It's exciting to talk to you. You're getting raves for your debut novel, The Final Revival of Opal and Nev, which is exciting in and of itself, but we need to also mention that you are a Jacksonville native, although you live up in New York now. So
That's right.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute, but first tell us about Opal and Nev and what inspired this story.
So Opal and Nev is really, the heart of it is from my teenage years growing up in Jacksonville. And really, being a young Black woman, really loving, for some reason, rock and roll music and wishing for an idol, that I could look up to, somebody who reflected an image of myself. And that's where Opal was born, sort of dreaming about that figure that I would have loved to pin to my bedroom wall.
So let's talk about Opal, the character, Opal Jewel, and her musical influences and her relationship with her partner Nev, and how they sort of become 70s rock and roll stars in the story.
That's right.
Tell us about these characters.
Yeah, Opal is sort of an amalgamation of many different Black women I have loved in entertainment, everyone from Grace Jones to Tina Turner to Eartha Kitt. She's bold. She has very strong opinions, and she loves the skin she's in, no matter what the context is. And she is from Detroit, and her musical partner, Nev, sort of discovers her while he's on his tour of America and stops in this bar in Detroit. And they have some things in common. They both have little lonely childhoods, and they both have felt outcast, and they really kind of create this new energy between them as artists. And, you know, the book tracks their rise and their fall and the dark secrets that come to light when they consider reuniting in 2016.
Let me make a quick mention of the fact that you, Donnie Walton, along with Dantel Moniz and her new collection of stories, Milk, Blood, Heat, Getting Raves, another African-American woman from Jacksonville, Deesha Philyaw, was a finalist for the National Book Award for her short story collection, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. So this whole slew of African-American female authors who hail from Jacksonville are making huge waves in the literary world right now, and you're one of them.
Yes.
It's really
Yes,
cool.
I keep joking to my family, like there must be something in the St. Johns River.
So that's right. So tell us about your childhood and growing up years in Jacksonville. Where'd you go to high school? Where'd you hang out and listen to music? What was it like for you growing up here?
Yeah, so I grew up in Riverside, but my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, a lot of them lived on the north side. So I spent a lot of time on the north side of Jacksonville, which is also where Deesha is from. We went to the same high school. We are Stanton College Prep Blue Devils. And Deesha was there 5 years before me. So I think, you know, that was when Stanton was 7th through 12th grade. So, you know, we didn't know each other then. I think I was 12 when I started at Stanton. So,
Oh, man. So you're a genius. Okay. So a Stanton kid, and then where did you go to listen to music, and what were your musical influences that really affected this story?
Yeah, so people who, you know, are fans of alternative rock, indie rock will well remember Einstein A Go-Go, which was a classic venue at Jacksonville Beach. I would go, you know, with my friends, and they played live. They had live music, live shows, but also it was just like a dance club, and it was sort of based on clubs in the UK. And it was a great place, an all ages club, and it was just a great place to connect with friends. And it was sort of a hangout for people who felt a little misfit, you know, and it was just a great, great experience. There's actually an Einstein group on Facebook that is very active because we have so many great memories and pictures and concert flyers and all that cool stuff.
Now, you're in Brooklyn these days. Are you planning to do any book signings for Opal and Nev back here in Florida this year?
I would love to. You know, I've got my first vaccine, and I am very much looking forward to the second one later this month. And the first thing I want to do is go down to Jacksonville and hug my mama. I really have missed her. I haven't seen her in over a year. So I would absolutely love to sign books in my hometown. I mean, this is the dream. This is a dream I've had since I was a kid growing up in Jacksonville. So absolutely.
Well, she must be so proud, along with everyone here in Duval. Donnie Walton, Jacksonville's own, her debut novel, The Final Revival of Opal and Nev, is out. Rave reviews for this debut. Check it out. Donnie, congratulations. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
And that's our show for this Monday. Thanks for listening, and thanks to all of our guests and callers, along with producer Heather Schatz, director Josh Torres, news director Jessica Palumbo, and digital editor Bill Bortsfield. Keep your feedback coming. Send emails to firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. Catch our podcast up later today wherever you like to listen. You can listen too through the WJCT app. I'm Melissa Ross. This is First Coast Connect on WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. We'll be right back here again at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Have a great Monday.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida